welcome to episode 2 of VSI's Pride podcast. I'm Holly Johnson, Corporate Communications Executive at VSI, and today I'm excited to welcome you back as we continue to broadcast the voices of community members and allies from across the group. Last week, Tamika Carty kicked off the series with an insightful discussion with LA's Liam Cabales and London's Ben Gardner as they explored what Pride means to them in 2025. It was a great episode featuring different perspectives within the LGBTQIA+ community. So if you haven't listened to it yet, then please do. For today's episode, I'm joined by two guests who are both based in São Paulo. Camila, team lead, and Dimitri, producer. And we'll be discussing showing up authentically at work. So without further ado, let's meet our guests. So Camila, do you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for the invitation. It's a real pleasure to be here talking to you all in this podcast. And who am I? So my name's Camila. I'm from Brazil. My pronouns are she, her, and I've been at BSI for nearly 3 years now. Time flies. I started as a senior PM and today I'm a team lead. I am from the countryside of Brazil, so I'm like a countryside girl, but I've been everywhere in the world. I've lived in China for 8 years and back to Brazil for 3 years now, so I'm very glad to be in my country, very glad to be home, and I feel very welcomed here. And that's it. I think basically, in a nutshell, that's me.
Okay, and Dimitri?
Well, I'm Dimitri. I'm 23. I'm at VSI São Paulo for 2 years now. I entered as an assistant, and now I'm a producer. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm from Brazil's São Paulo. I was born and raised here, lived here all my life.
Okay. It's really great to have you both here today, particularly for this conversation, and having that perspective from an ally and a community member as we discuss experiences within the workplace. So, Dimitri, first of all, have you ever felt pressure or ever downplayed your identity in the workplace? And if so, how have you navigated that?
At VSI, that never happened. And the 2 years that I worked here, that never happened, mostly because there are a lot of trans people in VSI São Paulo. I was not the first working there, so I feel like I was very comfortable from the beginning. I feel like people didn't ask me any questions. In other jobs I had, always had the uncomfortable questions. Being the only one in the workspace and feeling all right. By the time I was really young, I'm fairly young now, and I didn't have the maturity to deal with it, so I just brushed it off mostly. And nowadays, I feel like you have to think you have the right to be there. You work as good or better than most people, so why you wouldn't feel the right to be in the place you are?
Yeah, definitely. And it's really nice to hear that you felt supported and have enjoyed your time at VSI. Thank you for sharing that. Camila, as well, from a different perspective as an ally, have you ever had any advice for someone who is feeling that pressure to perhaps downplay their identity, or is there anything that you do to help others feel encouraged to be their authentic self within the workplace?
I think it all starts with us understanding that there's a myth of normalcy that we kind of live by, that there is a normal way or there's a standard way of approaching many areas of your life. And there isn't. I think sexuality is just one of them. The way you identify yourself is just one of them. So first of all, I do believe that having someone that is within the LGBTQ plus community in the team is no different than having someone that has any other type of identity, because it actually, there is no normalcy. I think everyone has their identity. Everyone has one identity or two or more, or everyone is trying to find their own. It doesn't matter your sexuality spectrum or where you are in the sexuality spectrum. So I think this brings us together because everyone is in a quest for authenticity, identity, and belonging. And it goes beyond sexuality. It's about human experience. And I think we connect in that. This is one thing. And I echo what Dimitri just said. It's just asking questions. I think it is important for people that are not within the community to understand the community owes you nothing in terms of explanation of how they live their lives or how they identify. Absolutely nothing. And there is no place or right opportunity for you to ask a question about that. Really, some people they ask when, but when can I ask? How should I ask? Where? You shouldn't. This question shouldn't even be in your head. You shouldn't ask. You shouldn't wonder about someone's sexuality at all, because it's just one part of their whole, and it's something that doesn't concern anyone but themselves. So I think this is the mindset that I believe allies and people that are trying to be allies need to understand.
Absolutely. And within the workplace as well, we're all working towards a shared goal, and it's great to have those differing perspectives to build upon that and to further your understanding. But as long as it's kind of underlaid with just trust, I think that's really important as well. So, Dimitri, you touched on it a little bit about growing that confidence. What advice would you give to someone who's struggling to navigate their identity within the workplace?
I guess it's mostly just feeling like you belong there. It's just like you said, you are working towards the project you were working, the things you were working to do. You are not there about your sexuality, your gender, anything. You're just doing your work. You want to do a good job that makes you worth it of having that space to be there. You have to feel like you do a fairly great work yourself, just as any cisgender straight people. And if you have the space to just do your job, you will be fine mostly because at the end of the day, everybody just want to go home to their family and be fine, you know? So it's growing your confidence mostly in your work, in what you do, in what you perform at work more than anything. You are in there for a purpose.
Yeah, it shouldn't be something you worry about when you go to work, like your identity or how people are perceiving me or whatever. Like you should be focused on what you're there to do, just work in a team, make the whole structure just progress. So definitely, I just really wish that no one within the community feels like they need to explain anything, or I think this weight shouldn't be present at all. And I'm really glad that Dimitri said that there isn't such thing in VSI, because there shouldn't be at all.
Yeah, I guess mainly because in Brazil we have mostly laws protecting people from discrimination at work. And I mean, VSI São Paulo, all our bathrooms are gender neutral. We don't have most problems people say to face what is the situation currently in the world. We have rights. We can feel comfortable. And VSI São Paulo, I feel like never differentiates people. We can feel fairly comfortable. So it's working.
No, it's really great to hear, and it's one of the aims of this podcast and our previous Pride campaigns is to share those experiences from people across our locations. And it's great to hear that São Paulo is really championing the VSI values of inclusivity. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I suppose that brings us on to our next question of what does true inclusion look like for you both? So is that kind of beyond Pride Month and perhaps what people perceive as rainbow branding?
Yes, that for the last 10 years we had this wave of rainbow branding all over the world, and now I see it going a little down. Companies don't do that so much, but I feel like it's because you need more than just selling products. We are just building a work community. I mean, you just hire these people, you just give them opportunities, and it will pay off. It will be real inclusion because these are people working, providing for their families, providing for themselves, providing for the community, and doing reliable job. So it's mostly that, it's being part of the workspace fully.
Absolutely. Camilla, would you like to touch on that as well?
Sure. I think echoing again what Dimitri said, it is about doing the job that the person was hired to do. Like the employee is an agent. You don't actually care about their personal choices at all. So we don't ask a computer, how do you identify? What's your gender? Like, of course, I'm not comparing humans to computer, but I'm saying humans are agents. We are capable of producing outputs, of connecting to people, and the way we identify is zero, like it plays zero importance. And also is like the company needs to be inclusive, like whether they want it or not, because the world is changing. And the inclusion actually makes you like catch the pace that the world is like changing on. You know, like I say, like in our industry, the movies, the series that come out, the documentaries, like more and more, they reflect the world that we live in. And the world that we live in has a huge spectrum of people in different sexualities. They identify themselves in different ways. So the workspace should echo that because that's a community. So schools should echo that, workspaces, churches, because If they don't, then there's something really wrong. They are not paying attention to what's going on with the world. They are not paying attention because these people exist and they are more and more vocal. They are more and more out, thankfully, because they have the space and the support to actually come out and be who they are. So this should actually enter every walk of life, including workspace. And also their trajectory, their life story helps the company be up to date, be on top of the changes that the world is going on, especially in our industry. Like I think you guys touched upon that before, but we do have an LGBTQ plus people in feature films and series, and we need to be faithful to this when we adapt, when we localize. So more and more, I think studios all over the world are feeling that inclusion is also part of this, part of the localization industry, and it's very strong. And a lot of like important players are striving for it, are actually fomenting that we cast inclusively, that we work inclusively, that creative team is inclusive. So there's no tone deafness to what's going on in the world. I think it keeps us sharp, keeps us up to date and human.
Absolutely. A great segue into our kind of next topic, and that's authentic representation in dubbing and voice acting. And like you say, it's truly important and kind of a natural progression as we evolve. And it's something that Ben and Liam touched on themselves within the first episode. So, Dimitri, how important do you think it is to cast authentic voice actors for queer characters, and why do you think that is?
I think it speaks some of the truths of the character and the storytelling. I guess the person can understand what the show is about when you have someone working in the casting that is LGBT people. These people can understand what the show is about without needing a lot of context. What Camila said is not tone deaf. So you employ LGBT people and you keep the truthfulness. So you give something to the community and you get something good back too. So I guess is mostly around that.
So it's beneficial not just for the makers, but also the global audiences as well, to appreciate that authentic experience. And I think it's something that is really recognized with audiences.
Yeah, of course, because I see that in the last 2 years, I guess, since I've been at VSI, you see more and more dubbing characters being dubbed by people who are in the same inclusion box, I would say. But it's not just that. I mean, you can cast inclusively besides the show being inclusive. I mean, you can put a gay person to dub a straight person and you start working with the voice and you start developing the voice. By the time you have a big character that is gay, that is transgender, you have already a trained voice, a good voice that can be shown to bigger characters, can work very well with the voice, and you get that work back. You get that investment back, and you have work for all these people. You have where to put all those voices. So we have this discussion. If you can put white people to, in the past, we put white people to the black people, why can't we do the opposite nowadays? You can put straight people to the gay people in the past. So now we still do that because sometimes we don't have the best voice to work in an inclusive way. I do casting, so I know a lot about that. So sometimes you have to adapt, but mostly if you have the voice and you have the inclusion, it's a good way for the company, for the community, and for the people watching.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, I saw you agreeing with some parts there. Was there anything you'd like to add, or did you just agree with what Dimitri said?
I just really agree about going beyond inclusivity. I think inclusivity in like casting appropriately for characters that are trans or are within the spectrum, like that I understand, but as Dimitri said, we need to go beyond that. Like this is the maybe the rudimentary step to start understanding that trans voice actors are just voice actors and they can voice other characters. And I really do hope that we start seeing that more and more. And like that to me, that is a next level of inclusivity in this industry that we're in. It's like really erasing sexuality and identity from the spectrum and focusing on what we actually work with, which is voice. just a voice.
Mm-hmm.
And the voice is so broad and so dynamic, and you can take it to so many directions. It's just limitless if you know how to work with it. So I'm excited for the future because I do think that we will see that more and more.
That's great. And again, it's interesting because this is kind of exactly the same sentiment that Liam touched upon in episode 1. So I'm excited for you guys to hear that too. And so, Dimitri, you said you've got experience casting. Is there any practical steps that you do that perhaps you can suggest to consider?
So we get mostly new voices, and sometimes they don't have the ability to voice bigger characters. So you start just putting them in small characters, in 2, 3 background characters, and then you develop them. So you don't compromise the quality of the product, but you also give them an opportunity to work. And mostly in a year and a couple of months, they will start developing, and you will be able to create this condition where you have this voice to work in any situation you would like, because sometimes they can't work bigger texts or bigger characters, but it's developing their talents, developing their voices. So it becomes the norm. It's what we were talking. It becomes almost like you don't see that line anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. So just touching back a little bit on what we spoke about earlier in the episode, what's something that you wish that heterosexual or cisgender co-workers understood a little bit better about LGBTQIA plus experiences within the workplace?
I guess it's mostly we just want to do our jobs and go home to our families just like any one of you. I mean, I don't know about your personal life also. I don't know if you're fighting with your wife, what you have with your children at home, with your pets at home. It's not up to me, so it's also not up to you what I do with my life. I just want to do my job and go get home. I'm tired in the end of the day, just as you. I will catch the same bus, we'll make the same salary, we'll do the same thing by the end of the day. So it's really that important. I guess that's what I would like them to know mostly.
That's great, thank you. I was going to ask if you had any advice for how managers or team leads can help create safer spaces for queer professionals to thrive, but I suppose from what you said already, inclusion goes beyond not just practical steps, but acceptance where it's kind of almost unsaid. But for perhaps those places where that's not quite the opportunity for them, is there anything that you would suggest for team leads to do to help create that safe space within teams?
Mostly there are so many more things that we have in common than we have apart. I guess it's just what I said. We do the same things, we have the same routine, we go to work the same hours and work in the same project. So you can build community around that. You can build a workspace around that, about the perks of working, about the perks of what happens in the day-to-day life. So I guess it happens to be more inclusive around that, because mostly is like what Camila said, you won't feel the difference between working with a straight cisgender people and a gay, a transgender person, or any kind of person at all, because it's just work in the end of the day.
And about building those bonds just as people and as teams.
Yeah.
That's great, thank you. And Camilla, as a team lead, do you have anything to add to that you might do?
I think Dimitri's answer was really great. I think it's really about creating connections. And as I said, like, I don't want to make my team member safe just because they are queer or however they identify themselves. I want them to feel safe because they are someone that is within a team that can contribute to something. If ever, I believe we come across a topic that concerns this or concerns someone that has this experience and we don't, I think it is important for us to listen more than to say. But it's not always the case. I think we just need to, again, connect, understand our strengths, and also connect through our vulnerabilities. Just echoing what I said back in the beginning, like, we all are seeking belonging. Doesn't matter which part of community you feel like you want to belong in, but human beings, most of them, they want to belong. They want to be a part of a community. They want to search for identity. Who am I? What am I doing here? And these are all vulnerabilities that we can connect to anyone else, like, regardless of their struggle or regardless of which community they want to or they believe they are a part of. So I think it's really about making these bridges on the good side and on vulnerabilities, on our struggles, so we can actually support and have true empathy and compassion towards one another.
Absolutely. That's a really lovely answer. Thank you, Camilla. Thank you both for taking the time to join me today and share your experiences. It's been really great to hear from you both. I'm sure that our listeners will enjoy this episode as well. So to finish off, we're asking our guests to sum up what pride means to them in one word and why. So last week, the words were resilience and resistance. So Camilla, what's yours?
Pride, to me, is just existing, being yourself.
Lovely.
I think for me it's just belonging, a sense of belonging in any place in society. I mean, in LGBT spaces, in work, in school, anywhere, you just need to belong.
That's lovely. Existing and belonging. I think they go hand in hand as well, and great words to end the episode on. So once again, thank you both for joining us. And for our listeners, thank you for listening. As always, we encourage you to show your support by engaging with the podcast on our social channels. Join us next week for our final episode of this mini-series, where you can listen to a discussion on celebrating queer joy. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next week.